Hi, Misha here, and finally getting around to maybe doing a couple more of the black box videos, although I'm still going to try to play with maybe a way to do a slideshow or something, you know, put up pictures of the cats. I don't know, I'll keep playing with it. I'm pretty limited in what I can do with the video editor. The whole blind plus video editing thing makes it a little tricky. You can probably fathom that. Anyway, to the title of the video, and I'll explain. Yes, indeedy, I am married to a Tartarian. Have been for over, 10 years. This is verifiable, factual evidence. There's no ambiguity about it. My wife is Tatar on both sides of her family, mother and father. We have been together for over a decade. That's a thing. Okay. This is a type of video I've thought about doing since starting this personal channel 3 months ago, but it's a really difficult thing to tackle. I want to talk about these internet conspiracy theories. There's new ones that pop up. I think the first one I noticed that made me go, huh? Was the flat earth thing. I know Jay was interested in the whole chemtrail thing when that popped out. Yeah. Here recently, I couldn't sleep one night, so I was editing videos, and it's pretty boring just editing videos. You set them to go, and then they do their thing. So I was Googling, and blah, 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 blah. I got around to the mud flood thing, which I had never heard of before. And then I saw Tartarian, and I thought, oh, Tatars, how does this play in? And then I read about this whole thing about the missing empire, all of this stuff, and how they were advanced and all this. And it made me scratch my head. Okay. Tatars, or Tatars, are a real ethnic group. There's nearly 7 million in the world today. They're mostly in Russia, but they're elsewhere in that area too. China has a large population, as does Ukraine. This is a real thing. But they were never a unified nation. They were several bands of nomadic tribes, peoples, living on the Russian steppe. Even for people in America, and especially people in Western Europe, where the distances are quite close, it's hard to truly comprehend how vast Russia is, especially going east-west. I can tell you it's 11 time zones, but that doesn't convey how much space is in Russia. My point is, if you look back at old maps, the land of the Tatars, which, by the way, Tatar is, the R was added in European lingo long ago, so Tatar, it's all the same. Yes, the land that they more or less roamed and controlled, and several tribes, principalities, was huge. Russia's huge, and it's mostly empty. That's the steppe for you. The Tatars did make it their way to Western Russia, for sure. They actually were allied with and intermingled with and became part of Genghis Khan's Golden Horde. They were part of that Mongol invasion. And of course, the Mongols never really left Russia. If you read classic Russian literature from the 19th century, Tolstoy, Dostoevsky, and so on, there are mentions of Tatars or Tatars in many of the books. That's probably the first time I heard of them growing up when I was reading Russian literature. You can also find vague references in things like Shakespeare. It's a term that's been around. And this is oversimplification, so think of them like North American Native Americans, Indians. They were the indigenous, semi-nomadic to nomadic people of the Russian steppe, Western Asia, eastern borders of Europe. So saying there was a major Tatar empire in Russia hundreds of years ago is like saying there was a major Native American Indian empire in North America. Yes, if you look on a map at the territory controlled by the Indian tribes before whites came, and even after whites were here for 100 years, it's a large swath of land. But for one, most of it was desolate and isolated. For another, and more importantly, the tribes weren't unified. And unfortunately, this is a big reason why the European settlers were able to do what they could do. They pitted the tribes against each other and divide and conquer. And they progressed west, west, west. And something not too dissimilar kind of happened in Russia, although not quite as dramatic. The Mongols and then the Tatars integrated into society to some extent. However, they still maintain an independent identity to this day. They speak a language. They even have a semi-autonomous state in Russia, Tatarstan. So they do exist, and they have a very rich culture. They were kind of part of the Turkish base. You can definitely tell this by their language. They're not exactly Slavic, although of course there's a lot of intermarriage and breeding. They have art and culture. The majority were Muslim, practiced Islam, but not all. There were some orthodoxies and other more local religions. You know, you have a group of millions of people, you're not going to have everyone sharing the same thing. And to that extent, there are different groups kind of descended from the original bands, tribes, what have you, small principalities of the Tatars. So while they have a very unique and interesting culture and in their own language, and to some extent are unified more or less under one religion, they never were a unified nation that controlled that territory in the sense we think of today as an empire. And they sure as hell didn't have advanced technology. I'm not saying they were primitive or savage. Hell no. They had a very evolved culture. But their technology, their science was primitive. Otherwise, we would have inventions coming out of that. We would see it in the, whatever. That's kind of a story for another day. But I mean, different groups excel in different areas. And of course, this history goes way back, 13th century and beyond. So we have records from Russia. I mean, the earliest written records from Russia go back to the 9th century AD. And even before that, we have some things. But, you have the Novgorod and the Moscow and so on and so forth. That's a story for another day. But I find this all very interesting, and since my wife really is ethnically a Tatar, I just couldn't help but do this video. I will say that I like skepticism, and I love research. And so I am going to do follow-up videos on logical thinking, critical thinking, healthy skepticism, unhealthy skepticism, frankly, anything like that. Now, what's going to be difficult for me, and what undoubtedly people will comment on, but I can't help it, is a lot of the evidence presented for many of these theories is visual. They are literally JPEG pictures, or maybe pictures out of a book. That's going to be difficult, so I'm going to have to just kind of abstain, because I don't want to talk on something I cannot witness myself, and I don't want to go with secondhand information. So I'm going to have to skip over a lot of that, but I can still go with quite a few other things. And I say what I say about the Tatars and all that, having lived in that part of Russia, as it happens, the Orenburg region, which is right on the part of the territory. Actually, there's a large population of them still today there. And that's, for those who don't know, right at the dividing line between Europe and Asia, at the southern edge of the Ural Mountains, actually right above Kazakhstan, which is a whole other ethnic group, and also from kind of the Muslim peoples and so on and so forth. Well, this is kind of my first attempt at this type of video, so, you know, I'll try to tweak it and do things, but this is something I've been meaning to do, but time has kind of gotten away. That's why I've done more of like the little model reviews and stuff. I appreciate everyone kind of tolerating. I know it gets repetitious, but those I could, you know, knock out like 10 of them in a day when I was set up to do it, and, you know, just have something to post. But, you know, life and work, family gets busy. I'm sure you all understand that. Well, if you could, like, share, subscribe, feel free to comment below. Just, you know, please be respectful of everyone. I love healthy discussions. I just don't like name calling and all that stuff, because it's counterproductive, and I don't know, it gets emotional, and I'd rather talk about more logic-based things myself. Just how my mind works. As always, if you could, check out the main channel over at Mishaco for serious content. This is just my musings and randoms page, and so on and so forth. Well, this is Misha, and I will catch you very soon next time.